first of all, thanks to the students for coming here. Really appreciate it. Thank you the two of you for being here. This is Lindsay Simon and Delia Hughes. They're the co-founders of an amazing company called Tazzy Co, and we'll talk about that. So, just a fun fact and a little bit of TMI. We met about 2 months ago. I was looking for entrepreneurs and startups who are based in the Westchester County. I found your website. I went to the contact form, like that's the most idiotic thing to ever do, right? And I entered my information. And what happened is, they responded. I was like, okay, it's gonna be like one of the 50 emails that you get spam every day. But you guys responded, and here we are. So, very thankful for you guys for being here. And I'll give the students a little bit of an intro to the team. I wrote it, I don't know if you remember. But Tazzy Co is a women-owned treats company founded by Lindsay Simon and Delia Hughes. Tazzy is known for using high-quality ingredients and crafting their treats to have a high-end bakery taste. They also have a strong commitment to giving back, donating 1% of their net profits to metastatic breast cancer research and awareness. That's amazing. We'll talk a lot about that. Just a little bit about our student group. You guys are today at the Heinz Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Our students are learning about entrepreneurial mindset, design thinking, business models, social entrepreneurship, with a goal that we develop that entrepreneurial muscle, that whenever they're ready to use it, whether it's immediately, while they're students or when they graduate, they will have the tools and skills to do so. Some of them already have companies. Others are thinking of starting companies. So our goal is to bring here entrepreneurs who actually are walking the talk, who are taking the risk, and they're the ones who you guys can learn, build a connection, and hear the stories and journey. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's start. Can you please share with us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? And how this impacted or affected your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. I'll start. Hi, I'm Lindsay. I grew up in Woodcliff Lake, New Jersey, so northern New Jersey. I went to school at Cornell University, actually, with Delia. That's where we met. And I actually went there with the intention of one day starting a food company. I always wanted to either run a restaurant at some point or own a food startup or something of that sort. So when I had applied to Cornell, I did it with the intention of studying food science. So actually understanding how to create and innovate a food product, and that was always the goal. And then while I was there, I actually picked up a double major and studied business as well. So that's kind of what my intention was always to do.
Similarly to Lindsay, hi, I'm Delia. I grew up in Westchester and Eastchester, so 5 minutes from here. Yeah, go Eagles. Okay. I went to Cornell as well, and I only applied to food science schools. My intention was similar to Lynn's, and studying food entrepreneurship, food business. That was my focus. So I only applied to schools that had food science, most of which were agriculture schools across the country, and Cornell was New York State's agriculture school. So went there, and yeah, what's so interesting about that major is you're trained to go into product development. So if you think about a big food company like Kraft Heinz or Nabisco, they all have food scientists that work on Oreos or Ben & Jerry's to make the next new ice cream flavor, or how do we make an Oreo taste the same but have half the cost? And that's all innovation, right? And coming up with new ingredients and new formulas. So food science was just such an innovative degree, and it just trained us to think about okay, what's next? What can we do? What can we think about? And it was always my intention too to start a company of my own one day. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I just had that
So how do you, okay, so you both went to Cornell. I'm assuming you met there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
how did you actually meet? Like, what was the first moment that you crossed paths?
We met as freshmen, and we took all the same classes together. Our major was so small, it was 30 kids, so you know everyone really intimately. And we actually worked in a candy laboratory while we were there, making kosher and halal, like certified gummy bears and marshmallows, aka you're not using pork gelatin, you're using fish gelatin, and it tastes like
So
fish.
bad. It was so bad.
So that's how we kind of got into like the candy world to start.
Okay. And so you're there, you're students, taking classes, taking the lab courses, and then at some moment you said, okay, maybe we start a company, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that moment? What was the aha moment who says, hey, let's do this?
I feel like the two of us were constantly brainstorming different ideas together. Like even in college, we had this idea. This was such an interesting idea. It was a fruit pasta. We were like, oh, they have vegetable pastas. What if we made it out of fruit? Do you remember that? So we were always constantly, whenever we were together, talking and brainstorming. And it was years after college that we had gotten together for dinner. And we were talking about how we just really wanted to live out our dream of actually owning our own food startup. And that's always what we wanted to do. And then we started brainstorming again. And then finally we came across this idea about shaking up the lollipop and hard candy category. We were literally walking the aisles of Whole Foods and looking at all the different categories and saying what needed innovation, what didn't have a better for you spin on it at that point. At that point, hard candy and lollipops were just the major players. It was like you had Dum Dums, you had Werther's, you had Tootsie Pops. They were all using ingredients like artificial colors, artificial flavors. It was high sugar. And we wanted to clean it up basically and to make it a little bit more modern and bring an interesting spin. So yeah, we thought, let's do it. And so it started as kind of like a side hustle for a while. And eventually we decided to leave our 9-to-5 jobs and do it full time because we realized if we didn't put 100% into it, it wasn't going to go anywhere. That's what we had learned. We were kind of 1 foot in it, 1 foot out of it, and with entrepreneurship, you really just got to go all in. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and we had been working for like 6 years at that point. So I think we both were like, is this what we're going to do the rest of our lives? Like always work for someone else, which, you know, that's totally fine. I think for us, we were just like really believed in building something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started as a side thing, and then eventually, it was actually when one of the largest competitors in the low sugar candy space, they were making gummies, and nobody had really touched the hard candy space, lollipop second candies yet, to bring innovation. And when that gummy company launched a hard candy, we were like, oh crap, like we gotta go. Like if we're gonna do this, we gotta do this. Because at that point we had one product in the market, and we were like, we gotta expand on this, like it's time to go. So it was really like the competition entering the space to be like, all right, get your ASS into gear and let's go.
So, okay, so let me take this a little bit back. So you guys are, graduate, you have your 9-to-5 jobs, right? You hang out for dinner. I'm assuming you're talking all the time in between, right?
Yeah.
And then you decided, so for how long did you stay as a side hustle before you said, okay, we have to do this full time?
I think it was like 2 to 3 years.
Okay, well.
It was a
Yeah.
long time. Because it's really scary, you know? It's easy to say you just can go for it, but you have to be financially capable. You have to have money saved. You have to figure out how you're going to support yourself. Because if you walk away from your full-time gig, like you better be bringing in money. So that's really important. And yeah, so it was 2 to 3 years before we felt comfortable to be like, okay, I think now is the time we can go all in.
And the other thing that it's always fascinating is when, you know, a lot of people have an idea, says, I want to be a founder, right, and start an idea. But it's more difficult sometimes when you have a co-founder, right?
Yeah.
So how did you guys decided that you are the right combo to do this together?
I think that we spent college basically always working together. We were studying together, we were doing problem sets together. We knew that we worked well together, which I think that a lot of co-founders get into trouble when they've never actually seen if they have compatibility before jumping into a business together, and then all of a sudden, you know, you have to tackle a lot of personality, I guess, challenges as well.
I think I've heard more often than not of co-founder issues. And I would say don't ever be afraid to just start something on your own. You don't need a co-founder. We've had a friend who had investors that pressured her into finding a co-founder because they were like, you don't have the background in this space to really own this. Like, we want you to find a technical co-founder, someone that's like an expert in the space. And she did, and it turned out to be like a disaster, honestly. So I think just trying to find someone to partner with, to find someone to cross off a box is not the right approach. You can absolutely do something on your own. But yeah, we had, fortunately, 4 years of working together. And college is a really stressful time. Like, it's stressful. You don't know what you're doing with your life. You're trying to get good grades. You're trying to have friends. You're trying to be social. Like, you're trying to do sports or whatever your extracurricular is. It's a really pressure cooker time. So it was a really good test for life. Like, I found college much more stressful than life now. You know, so I think it was like a good testament of working together.
Okay, so you have this idea, you're sitting down together, you said, let's try this, right? When did you decide to say, now it's going to be a formal company? Like, how do you go through that? You incorporate, how?
Yeah, so actually, we had to incorporate. I went back to grad school and we went through an accelerator program.
Okay.
At the end of the accelerator, they will give you, after a full academic year, they gave you $5,000 as like, here you go, great job, move on. But in order to get the $5,000, you needed to become a company legally. And, you know, there's a lot of different options. You can do an LLC, you can become a C Corp, you can become an S Corp. We decided to become a C Corporation, like a Delaware C Corporation, because it was our intention to become like a really big company. Obviously, that's kind of changed over the years. You know, we still are trying to become a big company, but we're still very small. But yeah, it was the accelerator that pushed us to be like, okay, make this a.
And that was the first type of financing that you guys received,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you get that $5,000 from the accelerator. Did you try to raise more money through the process, or it was like your own sweat equity and personal finances up to a point? How did it work?
Yeah, it started out with, we basically pooled our savings together to start this business on top of the $5,000. That's how we started. And all that just went to things like production, basically. We didn't really have money for marketing or anything of that sort. It was very grassroots, I would say.
Then once we proved out the concept a little bit further, we were like, okay, we need money to actually get to the next stage. So we raised friends and family money.
On a safe note.
On a safe note. And that was it. We haven't raised any money thereafter. We've been fortunate to win a grant from Frito-Lay PepsiCo. We won a grant last year. But other than that, We just have tried to be self-sufficient.
And we have a line of credit with Chase Bank.
Okay.
That's helpful.
No, that's really important, like, right, because everybody thinks that they have to constantly diluting themselves, right, raising money. But the best way to do this is if you can be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is really fascinating. What would you consider your biggest challenges in the first couple of years of running that business?
The first one was finding a contract manufacturer to work with, and a contract manufacturer is who you outsource the production to, basically.
Okay.
So you can bring them a formula, or they can help you develop a formula. And with lollipops and hard candies specifically, it's a very consolidated category. So there's only, like 4 contract manufacturers in the US. They're all huge, and they didn't want to work with small companies at a small scale. That was new. We contacted, like 80 maybe contract manufacturers around the world, which, I mean, most of the time we didn't even get a response back. And finally, we ended up finding one who only allowed us to use like a sugar-free formula. They didn't allow sugar in their facility, which was not our idea. Our concept was not sugar-free. But we started that way because it was the only way that we could get started. So.
It's a tremendous, like, I think that's an amazing story for all of us to hear, right? Because it's an adjustment. You have a point of view of what you need to do, and the only thing that's available to you is a different version.
Yeah.
And you guys went for it.
Yeah, I would say, like, I'll paint the picture of working on we worked on this product
for years.
2.5 to 3 years, and we had this idea of a candy we wanted to launch, which was actually basically a take on a Tootsie Pop. So it was a hard candy outside with like a protein ball center that was like made with dates and seeds and nut butters. That was the concept, like a snackable kind of candy, but it had like this protein element to it. And you know, we first of all could not find anyone that could make a filled lollipop. The science behind that is really technical. You have to match the moisture content of the center, that protein ball, with the hard candy. Otherwise, you can have moisture migration, and it's a food safety issue. So we just couldn't find anyone to make that. So that was the first pivot, right? Because we had been working on a formula in our kitchens for like a year, okay? Couldn't find anyone to do that. So we're like, all right, do we just make regular lollipops? Do people even want like a regular lollipop? What's our angle? And really our angle was we wanted to focus on low sugar. Can we develop a product with low sugar? And we contacted 80 manufacturers. We couldn't find one that would work with us with our custom formula. And the only one that would work with us was sugar-free. So we're like, okay, do we call it quits? Or do we change again and launch sugar-free and just test the branding? This is actually our sugar-free product. Test the branding, test flavors like spicy mango, sour watermelon, acai berry. Test functional ingredients. We had one with caffeine, we had one with vitamin C. And like, see if people even want this product. See if our customer is even resonating with this. And from there, we can continue to tweak. If we get scale with this, we then can scale to a larger manufacturer and make the formula we always wanted to make, which is what ended up happening.
Okay.
But yeah, it was about like, in entrepreneurship, I think you have to realize your first product is never your ideal product. Like if every day you're not bringing in revenue, you're dying. So it's like, get a product out there, sell it, and then figure out what's next.
That's great. That's amazing. So that was your initial product, and so we're always talking about customer segments, customer channels, how we reach out to them. So who was your initial target customer base then, based on the product? You had to pivot again, like in your
Yes.
marketing.
Our initial customer was actually people in corporate offices that had an issue with snacking in the afternoon.
Just everybody.
Yeah, like people that would be working at their desk all day, 3 p.m. hits, and you're like, I'm freaking exhausted, I'm stressed out, whatever the issue, whatever that reason was, you go to the break room and you get yourself whatever, the piece of cake or some M&Ms or Doritos. You eat it, and we were going after the customer that then felt guilty about it.
And who ate it so quickly. It's like you eat the bag of Doritos in 5 seconds, and then you're like,
Okay.
I would love something more.
Right, so we were like, okay, hard candy is actually such an awesome solution for this because it lasts a really long time. I don't know the last time you guys had a lollipop or a second candy, but it can last a long time. So we were like, this kind of solves that mindless snacking thing where it can give you that like hit of a little bit of sugar, fruitiness, juiciness, and you can mindlessly snack on it, and it's not gone in 2 seconds. So that was like our initial target, where it was corporate offices and then going after like people working in those offices. Unfortunately, COVID hit, so we were like, oh no, we can't target this customer base anymore because everybody's working from home and corporate offices no longer exist. So we had to change direction again to be like, okay, if that's not our first target audience, who's our actual target audience now? And at that point we were like, you know, little kids are eating lollipops, much older adults are eating sucking candies like Werther's. In between, no one's really touching this stuff, right? It's just not consumed frequently. So we were like, can we bring back a young adult into this category? Because it's a familiar product. We all grew up eating lollipops, right? We understand what it is. And can we bring a young adult back into it while catering to their preference of nutritionals, fun flavors, like what they would be looking for in a hard candy if they were going to eat a hard candy. So that's how we like kind of changed our whole target customer.
Okay, so you launched this, and you start selling. Mm-hmm. And what was the feedback that you started receiving? Like, because you wanted to test it, right? But you said, mm-hmm. We need to go out in the market, test it to see if we're even viable.
Right. We get a lot of feedback. We were basically going into stores and we were sampling it out, and we were talking to everybody that we could possibly talk to. We heard that people didn't love sugar-free. They didn't love our ingredients, which were sugar-free ingredients like isomalt, erythritol.
Sugar alcohols.
Yeah, sugar alcohols. We heard that our price was too expensive. It was like, what was it, $7 for 7 lollipops, which is what happens sometimes when you are so small and you can't scale yet. We heard people love the flavors, the flavor variety. They had wanted the functional element, which is why we launched the vitamin C and the caffeine as well. We heard from a lot of men that they weren't interested in sticks and that they'd rather it be a hard candy. I know, it was like, oh, interesting. You kind of like pick up these trends when you're talking to people, and you know, we took it and we actually ended up scaling. We lowered our price point, we removed the sugar alcohols, we changed the claim from no sugar to low sugar. Eventually learned that people felt that a low sugar product wouldn't taste good, so then we took off the low sugar and made it a full sugar product that was clean. And we focused on the fact that it only had 6 ingredients. What else did we learn? I think that was probably it. Oh, and then the branding, the face. People loved it. People didn't know what it was. They thought it was a face mask, often.
So we changed our packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are so many learnings. I mean, we were in the hard candy business for like 4 solid years, and our evolution was like quite drastic. And you know, who was eating our sugar-free products religiously were people that had to eat sugar-free, like a diabetic community, and that was quite interesting. But you know, we felt like the larger market was just so untapped, right? So that's why we ended up switching to the reduced sugar and then eventually a full sugar product. The full sugar product still had significantly less sugar than, the classic variety, but we didn't market it that way anymore. We really just focused on like the clean ingredients. And all of these changes in how we marketed the product came from actual learnings of being in the market and hearing what people were saying and the trends that we were seeing. So it was that constant evolution.
It's amazing. But you receive so much feedback, right? That can take the company in so many different directions.
Yeah.
How did you choose what to take in and what to, I would say, ignore or probably push for later?
I think it was really challenging because oftentimes when you hear something, you kind of want to run with it.
Yeah.
But you just have to keep you just have to keep a pulse on it. That's kind of what we always say to each other. We're like, okay, we'll keep sampling, and how many more times is that feedback gonna come up? And if it's something that one person said one time, then we're like, disregard it. But if it's something that you hear over and over and over again, that's really when we look to incorporate it. So.
And how do you guys collect that feedback? Was it leave us a comment on our website, or or you being actually inside the stores selling it?
In store, like doing the demos in the stores we were selling in and hearing direct feedback from consumers. And then, of course, reading reviews on Amazon and our website. That's kind of how we got all of that feedback.
And so if you think about like the evolution, where are you guys now in terms of products in the market?
We've really changed course. So the hard candy business is something we are kind of steering away from. It has proven to be a category that is just not heavily shopped. The trends in candy have moved to, you guys can probably guess, like what's popular in candy. Does anyone have any ideas?
Like sour food.
Sour is huge.
That's huge.
Sour is huge, but like
CBD.
gummy, it's really like gummies.
I know, but yes.
Gummies and chewy candy, so think like a Starburst type product, but really like a ton of gummy products.
Yeah.
So many new products have launched in gummies, a lot of sour stuff, and then chocolate. Those are like where really the category has moved. So we were like, okay, if we want to survive as a business, we got to innovate and we got to get into something different. And we went down the path of developing like a whole line of gummies, working with 2 different contract manufacturers, but we didn't end up launching a gummy product. We felt like that category was quite saturated. There are a lot of brands in that space already. And then chocolate snacking, we just felt like there was some unique like innovations that we could launch in that space. So we have moved into the chocolate snacking category. Our new product are these cookie bites. We're gonna send you guys some to try. I'm so sorry we don't have samples now, but they are these mini cookies. They're like this big, enrobed or covered in chocolate. And different flavored cookies, different kinds of chocolate, white chocolate or milk chocolate or dark chocolate. And the whole concept is you have one single serving bag and you eat the entire serving. So it's like an impulse size, something you would grab at a coffee shop or an airport, and you would eat the whole bag size. So yeah, we've really like changed direction quite a bit to survive.
That's amazing, right? Because you're learning and you
Yeah.
say, I'm not going to give this up because we think there is something, we just have to adapt.
We have to adapt, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your creative process in terms of designing new products, thinking about new products, from, I guess, the consistency of the ingredients all the way to packaging. How do you guys?
And with this concept, with the chocolate-covered cookies, we really wanted to focus on a multi-textural experience.
Okay.
We loved the idea of having something that was crunchy with something that was creamy, and it even stems from, we had this original concept of like chocolate snacking bark that really brought this home, because it would have like caramel and then like crisped rice and things like that. So that's kind of where it started, I would say, the concept. and then focusing on very clean ingredients. When it came to the design, we actually do have a third team member who we work with, and she is kind of just the genius behind the personas and all of our branding. But we sit there and we brainstorm exactly what direction we want to go. We bring together kind of a mood board of all of these different competitors in the space, or even just other categories that we want inspiration from. And we kind of pick things from there, like, do you want a really bright, exciting palette? What's the tone of voice? How do you want your product to show up on the bag? Things like that.
Yeah, and I would say most important is like, what are the key selling points? And that then becomes the focus of your design. But yeah, as far as the creative process, it's like understanding what's working in the market today, like what trends there are, and then like, who are you as a company? What is your mission? And then how could you represent that trend if it's something you want to go after? And innovation is like the most fun part of anything, right? That's what entrepreneurship is. So a lot of times it's like something that doesn't even exist today that you're innovating, and you're coming up with a solution. We're not necessarily solving a problem. A lot of food products, I would say, like some are solving problems, but really it's more like it's a need. You're like creating a solution for a need or a want, and a want is a better word. So yeah, it was just like, all right, what are people looking for? Multi-textures, like that's really, really popular. Like, have you guys had the Nerd gummy clusters? Like that's a multi-textural experience, right? It's like a gummy product with the crunchy nerds. That has become like, I think, over a $500 million item. And previous to that, Nerds was like a $50 million brand. It's like crazy what that innovation has done. And don't quote me on any of those stats, but I think it's something like that. And so we were like, multi-texture is cool. We also know that people want indulgence. That's something we learned from our hard candies, right? We started off as sugar-free, and we were like, this is really, really niche. Most people just want sugar, and they just want less of it. So how could we do that? How could we create an indulgent product, but make it portion-sized? So that was like the other key element. And then the last element was like, how do we cater to a channel that's on the go? Everybody's on the go. Everybody's busy. How do we then go after like what we call the impulse channel? So think about anywhere where you're buying a protein bar to take on the go, you know? Like airports, convenience stores, your corner deli. And we were like, how do we develop a product for that? And that's how we took like those three pieces and came up with ideas and came up with the product concept. The biggest thing too for creativity is you could have an idea in your head, like our Tootsie Pop idea, but if you can't find a way to actually make it, that idea is dead. So you also have to understand what your capabilities are to actually manufacture the product in food.
As well as scale it, because you could maybe make it in a commercial test kitchen and then not have equipment that even exists to create it. So you kind of want to make sure that it is a viable product that can hit the market.
So many pieces.
Yeah, we talk about like market demand, scalability, viability.
Yeah.
Also has to make sure you guys can make money out of it, right? Like can be profitable for you.
Yes.
Definitely. It's a true like business case. Every innovation is like a true business case because you have to consider what are the costs, what can we actually sell this for, and what is somebody going to buy it for? Can we make money making this? Okay, great. Now, do people even want this? Like, this is an innovation. Do people even want this? And is this even scalable? And it's like going through so many different pieces
At the same time?
at the same time before you can even launch something, right? So it is like, I'm going to say a work of genius. Not really. It's just, it takes so much effort, you know, to launch a product in the market.
How do you guys work creatively? Like, how have you divided and conquered the Tazzy ecosystem, right? Because going back to the co-founders' work, I have been in situations personally where with my co-founders, we never had like the points of communication, like we're not putting our ideas across. And everybody wanted to do the same thing. We're all product, all marketing. Everybody was doing packaging, right? How do you guys balance this out as a team?
I think that we kind of just figured out what we gravitated to, like, for each of us. And oftentimes we'll even split, like, the different sales accounts. So we both manage kind of different accounts. And then as far as, like, I do the packaging, you do honestly, a lot of the sales.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it just ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are so many things to consider because you have operations, so logistics, meaning how do you get, like, your ingredients to your manufacturing facility? Who's managing that? Who's managing the packaging order and making sure that gets to the manufacturing facility? Who's managing the manufacturer and the production runs? Who's managing the innovation and staying on top of, like, getting your samples and iterating? Who's managing sales? And it's like, I think at first it kind of started off where we're each doing this, this, and this, but now I feel like we just kind of split it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it kind of ebbs and flows based on the project.
Yeah.
And, like, who has more on their plate and who has less that can then, like, take on.
But you trust each other, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, we trust each other.
100%.
There's not, like, we're not micromanaging each other.
I think, like, for things that I didn't know how to do, she sat down and taught me, so now I can pick up anything that she doesn't have time to do and vice versa. So it's kind of worked where we could both kind of interchangeably jump in as needed. Because with the small businesses, you have to be able to do everything. And you don't know how to do anything, is the truth of it. Like, we Google probably everything under the sun. We ask other founders how to do things. We've had so many mentors who have sat down with us to show us how to price things properly and what costs and fees to account for. So yeah, we're just learning. We're learning and we're doing and we're making mistakes.
It's such a good point too, because I think a lot of people are like, okay, I have to start a company in an industry that I know, or I have to be an expert before I can launch a company in a space that I know. And it's like, that's not the case. We both studied food science, worked for huge food companies on all different types of roles, learning, you know, sales, logistics, marketing. And I will tell you, we launched a food company and we knew freaking nothing. Like, we knew nothing. And it's like the skills that you learn at big corporations will never transfer to running a small business. You know what our days typically consist of? Accounting. How fun is that? We didn't know SHIT about accounting. Yeah, we took an accounting class, but you don't know how to do it for entrepreneurship.
You don't know how to use QuickBooks. Nobody taught us.
So, and innovation, like, yeah, innovation at a big company with $1 million budget is a lot different than innovation with a $10,000 budget to produce your product, your packaging, and get it out the door, you know? So,
and you don't have data. We didn't have access to any data the way that you do at a large company. At a large company, you have, like, tons of studies. And
we spent most of our days looking at data at these big companies to make decisions. So now it's like, okay, to make a decision, you're using gut, you're using talking to your customers, and looking at trends that you can kind of figure out yourself. So I would say, I don't know, I would not be scared to ever, like, launch a company where you're like, I don't even know robotics, you know? It just takes grit and, like, willing to learn and willing to change. That's really what it takes.
That's amazing.
That wasn't your question, but
No, I appreciate that you took me there. You guys know that's great.
So we're always learning and interchanging.
But this is that's very important, right? Like, this is real.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a theoretical entrepreneurship class.
Yeah.
It's like the real world, you know, outcomes of your experience. Okay, I want to change course a little bit.
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit about your engagement with MBQ,
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
how it started, how did you decide to participate so heavily, and you know, tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, I would say we always wanted to incorporate, you know, starting a company, you can kind of do whatever you want to do, right? It's your baby. So giving back was always something so important to us. As far as what we gave back to, it was like something that kind of found us. I don't know if you guys have ever heard the statement, but sometimes you don't choose the cause chooses you. And, you know, I had a dear friend whose cousin, who's 29, and her mother, who was 59, were both diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer within 3 months of each other. Metastatic breast cancer, for those that don't know, is stage 4 breast cancer, and there's no cure. It's basically a death sentence. And, you know, so much money, you guys must know, so much money gets raised for breast cancer every year, of course. But only 2 to 5% of funding actually goes towards finding a cure for metastatic breast cancer. So it's a really important issue. Also, 30% of people that get breast cancer will eventually metastasize. So this is huge. And we just felt so compelled by the cause, you know, being women and the statistics of potentially getting breast cancer one day. We just felt like this just makes sense for us. And the way we initially got involved was when we were a sugar-free hard candy company, we were working with a manufacturer that allowed us to do really small batches. So in food, that's so awesome because that means you can do custom things really easily. If you think about it, if you have a huge manufacturer that you're working with where the minimum order is, let's say, like 50,000 lollipops, like that's a ton of lollipops you then have to work through. Versus if you're working with the manufacturer where the minimum order is maybe 1,000 lollipops, that's not that bad. So you can do custom flavors, test fun things. So we partnered with Jackie and Carrie, who were the 2 women diagnosed with MBC, and we developed a custom flavor with them where we had them, they gave us like 8 flavors that they were interested in. We made all of the flavors, sent it to them, and they chose the flavor that they loved, which was acai berry. And then we had these huge personas on our bags, and each persona represented a different personality of that flavor. So we actually made personas specific for Jackie and Carrie, and we sold those bags into grocery stores and retailers. And was it 1% or 10%?
It might have been 10%.
Yeah, it was a percentage of, I think, revenue.
Yeah.
Revenue that then went back to metastatic breast cancer for all of those bags sold. And eventually, we were like, you know, we got more involved with the nonprofit, we got more involved with the organization, and we're like, why does it have to be just these flavors? Let's just make it across our whole brand, Tazzy, and give a percentage of proceeds. And that's what we did. And what's really awesome is we also sponsor a gala every year that raises money for the cause in Philadelphia, where we do the dessert room. And it's really fun. The last 2 years we did a Candyland experience because we were so candy. And this year we collaborated and did an ice cream sundae bar where we worked with a local Philly ice cream shop and made a custom flavor with our cookie bites. It was like a peanut butter crumble. It was so cool. They used our peanut butter cookies in ice cream. And yeah, we had like a crazy ice cream bar. And this gala is like between 400 to 500 people every year, and it raises a ton of money. So it's just been an awesome way to give back to a community that's so in need. And I don't know, we just really love it.
Can we do a quick round of applause for this? Yeah.
Yeah, our friend's cousin and mom. Yeah, that's how we got involved.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is awesome.
That's amazing. Okay, so we have 2 more questions, and then we're gonna open it up for the students. How do you stay motivated and inspired at running a company that has ups and downs, right? Every day, working on changing the course, creating new avenues and new markets. Like, what motivates you?
I mean, for me personally, I think having such a great co-founder Like when I'm down, she brings me up, and I think vice versa. I think it's been really nice having that type of partnership and friendship. Just having somebody to talk to, because every day is ups and downs. Things happen.
Definitely. I would say the same, but also what motivates me is sales. Like if I have an inkling of a customer that's interested in taking out a product, I'm like, let's go.
So you move to the dark side.
I'm like,
Yes.
let's go. I love sales.
She needs sales.
Yeah, I really do, and it's so fun to be like, oh, I remember when we were sugar-free hard candy, and my goal was like, I want to get into Urban Outfitters because they sell candy and our product is cool and they want lollipops. And I freaking did it. And I got it into Urban Outfitters, and I was like, yes. And it's just like motivating, you know? As soon as the buyer like responds with like, yeah, I'm interested in samples, I'm like, yes.
The adrenaline.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
love that. So I feel like right now we're working on a lot of really interesting sales opportunities that are super new for us. And I'm so excited about them. Like, granted, like 50% of them probably won't turn into anything. But that's like, you gotta have a little bit of hope in life,
Yeah.
you know? Most things don't work out, but the one that works out, it like pulls you forward.
Okay, that's an amazing advice, by the way. So okay, on top of that, what advice would you guys give to students who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs?
I would say that you should really, I would say don't be afraid to just like learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to people. Like the amount of people who I've reached out to on LinkedIn because I either want to learn more about how they got started with their business or how they were able to create like such a large social media following is, I mean, I must have reached out to like 1,000 people by now. And people always, I would say most of the time, are so willing to help and to talk to you. And that's how you become successful, is you learn from other people's mistakes and other people's learnings, and that's been really huge. And if you're ever approached by somebody who wants to learn from you, you should always take that call. You never know where things are going to lead, who they know, how they could help you too, and it's always just a nice community of founders. So.
Yeah. No, that's great. I would say you're gonna be wrong, like you're gonna get it wrong. And you can be defeated by it and walk away after like 6 months, or you can like pick yourself up and be like, I'm gonna do it again. Like, and I think it's a lot of willpower. Like you have to intrinsically want it. And you know, over and over, I thought we were gonna sell this company in 3 years, and I was gonna make $100 million and be, you know, the next cool thing. Have you ever heard of like the 20-year overnight success story? Like it takes so long. And I think you have to be resilient, and you have to have, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's a partner, people that believe in you, that can help pick you up when you feel really down. Because I will tell you, Lindsay knows, I have felt down so much, like so much. You feel unconfident, you feel like a loser, you feel like, what am I doing with my life? You know, my friends have like real jobs and they're making real money, like what the hell am I doing? And you need people, you need to surround yourself with someone that can be like, keep going, keep going. And then you have to learn how to be that for yourself. So I think it just takes time, and you know, whether it's mantra, figure out what keeps you sane. So that's my advice. And also just don't be afraid to try something. You can be doing this on the weekends. You don't have to leave your job. You can have a job and do this on the weekends or do it at night. But you're gonna be wrong. Nobody knows what they're doing. So just try it. If you really have an idea, just go for it.
It doesn't need to be perfect either.
No.
Just do it.
Like, we didn't want to launch sugar-free lollipops, but it's like, here we go. Now we're in the sugar-free lollipop game, and we're going to figure it out and learn. So that's my advice to you.
Cool. Okay, we're going to do this one more time. We have a few more claps.
Because we still have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we have questions for the
Yeah,
audience.
great. Okay. Because I want to open up the floor.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you sell to a major corporation for the right price, if like in the near future?
I think so.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not necessarily our immediate intention right now. We always talk about how we want to be profitable and self-sustaining because we love what we do, but honestly, for the right price, sure.
How would you go about like catering to a bit underrepresented market or like a business that doesn't have like a lot of people in that same sales bracket?
Catering to an underrepresented market. Give me an example.
So say like an underrepresented sport, like what's that one with the paddles and the
Oh, pickleball?
Yeah, pickleball, yeah.
So like trying to bring people in to then learn how to play pickleball, for example.
Yeah, say like you had like a whole subscription service on like an in-depth tutorial for pickleball, like it's a whole thing. But now the problem is bringing like the people to that demographic and making the market larger.
That's a great question. There's probably so many ways you can do it. I mean, you could probably do grassroots intention where you focus on one community. Let's say it's like near Rochelle, and you find a pickleball organization, court, and you bring people in for free. And you're like, okay, we're gonna teach you people, whatever your target market is. Let's say it's like high school youth that maybe need more direction. Let's say that's your target market. You bring them in and you teach them how to play pickleball. And then you kind of get them to then become the brand advocates, like the self-advocates.
The ambassadors.
To then go back out in their community and be like telling all their friends and getting people excited. And you could do something like, okay, every friend you bring, you're gonna make $10.
Yeah.
And you can do like
Events.
grassroots scrappy stuff like that.
Yeah, you could do like grassroots events where you do it like Friday night and you bring in like, I don't know.
DJ,
Yeah,
whatever.
DJ, food truck, you know, maybe like collaboration, have flyers that's so cheap.
I think the like initial thing would be, I think most people would be like, oh, well, just figure it out by social media. But it's like, let's be real, like social media, you can get lucky if you become viral, but that's like far and few between. And I think a lot of everything starts with like a grassroots, localized community and figuring out how to make an impact locally that then can scale.
And that's basically what we're doing with our cookie bites. We're really trying to focus in on New York and Chicago are our two areas, and like we're just focusing in, and that's basically.
And how do you get in? If you're my target customer and I think about you, I'm like, okay, where's everywhere that this person is going in a day? What's the deli they're going to? What's the convenience store? Where are they grocery shopping? Where are they picking up a late night treat? I need my cookie bites in all of those locations in that area. That's kind of like
Our pickleball flyer.
yeah.
Cool. Yep.
Were there any issues you guys had collaborating when you decided to venture out and like make cookies, for example?
Good question. We had to find a new manufacturer, and it was great because we had previously, the year before, thought we were going to go into candy bars and make like Twixes. I know, we have a million effing ideas. And we had reached out to this manufacturer before. We had gotten the introduction from another founder friend, actually, who had worked with this manufacturer. And we reached back out to them, and we were like, hey, we have this idea. We like sent him the photo of the prototypes. And he's like, I think I can help you. And that's kind of how it got started. So, yeah, I mean, the biggest constraint was like finding the next manufacturer. Otherwise, we had all of this knowledge as to how to do the packaging, who to get the packaging from. We understood the logistics at this point, and it was like more like, okay, we have had 4 years of experience working in a category that's really hard, but we gained all of this knowledge, and within 4 months, we were able to launch a new product seamlessly because we had all of this background at that point from the Lollipop experience. So the biggest constraint was like partnering up with the manufacturer, getting the product to run on the machine, and that was like really it.
a lot easier this time.
Yes.
So you both mentioned how your target market kind of changed a few times. I kind of just wanted to know how your marketing strategy changed, like in correlation with those target markets changing.
I think like now, I think our marketing strategy initially was very much like we were thinking more of the big D2C brands, like how do we go viral, how do we go about it more digitally, and now after being years in the business, we're changing over to this hyper-local focus where it's much more about grassroots, word of mouth, being in person, sampling, speaking to people, not only to learn but also to just tell them about ourselves and having all these touch points with the hopes that maybe they'll talk about the product to other people and we'll start to garner kind of a nice following that way. So we've kind of scaled back almost, I would say, right?
Yeah. I would say like our marketing, we never had money for marketing, so it was always going to be like, what can we figure out how to do? And I feel like we focused on social media and it was like, that was a lost cause. Like, no.
It's also not our personalities. Like, we're not authentically people who like to be on camera typically.
We try really hard.
Yeah, we try really hard. It's all of us on Instagram.
But it doesn't come naturally. So, yeah, and we were just like, what's actually going to move the needle? And, like, what's going to drive sales? And it's like, okay, getting into physical retailers and sampling. That's what drives sales. So that's how, like, the marketing strategy has changed.
Yep.
Who did you like look up to when you wanted to start like your business and like that you wanted to like follow their like kind of career path?
I mean, in my family, my cousin actually owns a sorbet company, and I always thought that it was such an interesting career path to be able to innovate and to drive your own business, and it's just always been something that I've looked at that I thought, this is what I want to do. So for me, it was probably just in the blood.
Yeah, I would say, there's a really fun quote where it's like, if you look at someone and you see that they're doing something and you're envious, that means you want to do it. And I feel like I would see these young people with food businesses that were killing it, and I'm like so envious. I'm like, I need to do that. And it wasn't like one specific person, it was just like, that needs to be me. Like, I need to do that. So it was just like, I don't know, seeing an industry that you're fascinated by, seeing like a couple people that are in it, and you're like, yeah.
Anyone else with a question?
Okay.
I have a comment.
Oh, did you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
What's your next goal? What's the next target? What are you guys looking to accomplish?
That's a fun question.
Yeah.
We want to get our cookie bites onto airlines and in a big hotel chain. So that's like our big focus
For this year.
target. But we're really focused on the cookie bites right now. And then, and trying to get it into these like really interesting alternative channels, not traditional grocery stores. We still, of course, want to get into grocery stores, but it's like, how can we build the brand awareness in a creative way while bringing in sales to airlines, get a ton of people to try the product. So that's like our biggest goal.
Goal for the year. Yeah.
We'll see if we ever get there. Yeah. Might be flying high, Tazzy. Who knows? Okay.
So yeah, I have a question. Do you ever look at other like small candy shops or chocolate shops in town or out in another county and look at their business model and say, maybe I could take something out of that? Have you ever done that? Because I'm from Rockland County, and my science teacher, funny enough, his family owns Lucas Chocolates. And they've been around for, 40, 50 years. And this is before social media, this is before Instagram and all that stuff. But yet, one of the things that made them successful was always seasonal, like Easter. People would just order. He did his thing, but that's where he made his most money, like the seasonal time, Christmas, Valentine's Day. So I'm wondering, do you, one, look at other business models to get some ideas, and two, do you focus on the seasonal times in the year? Just curious.
It's a great question. I mean, most candy sells during seasonal time, whether it's like Halloween, Valentine's Day, Easter. That's like prime time.
Yeah.
And of course, like, you know, the December holidays. For us, it has always been challenging because we always worked with much larger manufacturers. We can never do a seasonal item because the volumes were just way too big. We had to focus on like our 3 or 4 core items, and that was it. And that was a real like disservice for our business because yeah, we should have had like a peppermint candy cane, hard candy, like definitely. So now with our new manufacturing partner and this new business model, we can absolutely take advantage of that seasonality. What's hard for us is because we don't have a physical storefront, we have to have retailers like lined up that are going to take our distribution and be able to move that volume for us, which, you know, we're just building right now. But like absolutely we look for inspiration, and I feel like even if you go to like small candy shops or bakeries, like we were just in one yesterday, and it's like looking at how they package the product and how do they make it look so appealing and artisanal, and how can you like take that and apply it to a grocery store on the shelf, you know, while still making it cheap enough for a customer to pick up. So like definitely we look at all of that. Innovation, we just developed for a retailer a Dubai cookie bar, and we'll see if they take it, but you guys know the Dubai chocolate bar, and we did like a cookie version with a shortbread and like a filling and covered in chocolate.
Kind of like a Twix.
Kind of like a Twix.
Yeah.
And like that was innovation from, we saw a ton of like small bakeries doing stuff like that. So we were like, okay, but yeah, absolutely. Inspiration everywhere.
Now, they specialized during Easter time. They would take a marshmallow, dip it in caramel and chocolate, and those sold like you wouldn't believe, because you couldn't get that really anywhere. So they had that, it was unique. And one of the things I think with texture too that they had, that now you could get a lot more when you go to those specialty shops, is the caramel with chocolate and sea salt on top. So you are getting the salty and the sweet. And so it's just interesting. I'm sure you
I notice a sweet tooth here.
I'm that person that you were trying to sell in corporate. I mean, but I'm in academia. I go downstairs, I get a Snickers bar all the time. They know that I'm chocolate king. But yeah, so it's fun to hear, and I'm sure it's exciting to just come up with new ideas or take the ones that exist and make them better. So.
Definitely.
How do you guys stop yourself from eating all of your creations, or do you not?
I have a glucose issue, so that stops me.
Wow.
I have to be like really cognizant.
I've eaten through all of my samples, and I have to place another order, so I have a problem, but it's okay. They taste so good.
Are any of you from upstate New York, like Syracuse? No. Okay.
Why?
It's such a fun company. They make chocolate pizzas. And I was gonna say, that's like such a fun inspiration. And they do tons of custom things, and it's like so fun. But I was like, I don't know if anybody knew.
No.
Well, what's the name of it?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay, well.
I don't remember.
She's having somebody else do it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so very much. This is a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.